Welcome to my tutorial on how to play React: The Arts of War on screentop.gg. In this tutorial, we'll go over how to start a room, how to add people to that room, some tips and tricks on how to set up your characters, and some shortcuts that are universal and character specific to help you make the most out of playing on Screentop. First things first, you'll want to go to screentop.gg/@BrotherMingGames/React-Arts of War. I'll include a link in the description of this video, and then from there we will just go ahead and click play. This will now create your room. Once your room is created, you will want to, of course, invite anyone that is going to either play against you or spectate. You can just go ahead and click this invite button, copy this link, and then if you share this link, anyone will be dropped immediately into this room. And what's really nice about Screentop is as long as you have this link, this room is saved. I'm not sure for how long, but if both you and your opponent both disconnect, don't worry, just hop back into the link. Everything will be exactly as it was. Next up, you're going to want to join the room officially, and specifically in which seat you're going to be playing on. So there is a blue seat and a red seat. You'll just click this join button at the top here, give yourself a name, and then choose, of course, seat 1, seat 2. There's also GM seats in case somebody wants to sit in or have extra control. Now you'll see that since I was blue, this bar where you can keep your hand will be filled in. Now any cards that go there, only you'll be able to see, your opponent will not be able to see. Now that we're in the room, presumably our opponent has joined in as well. On this first room where you'll be playing, there'll be the 10 character card, and these will be used to pick your character purely superficially for the most part, as you'll want to, of course, clear them off at some point to actually get to the board. But during a tournament, these will be used as a way to draft your characters and then choose secretly what you're playing as. So that way, your opponent doesn't have any knowledge of what you're picking when they're picking. So now gets to how to set up your character. So in Screentop, there's a few different rooms. There's the open beta, which is where you'll be playing. There is the character selection screen. There's a few others, but really all we need is these two. The character selection screen is where you will find all of the characters that you can play as and bring their pieces to the open beta board. Now, you can go through this drop-down menu on the left here, or these are correlated to numbers. So if I just click 1, I'll return to the open beta. And if I hit 2, I'll go to the character selection screen. So this is going to be the best way I find to move your pieces from the character selection to the open beta. As you can right click and then go to move to, but easiest way is, let's say we're playing as the dancer. I'm going to highlight their board, press 1, and it will come along with me here. And I'll just do a quick lock. You can either press L or right click to lock it. You're not going to want that board moving around. Oh, I guess if I'm blue. Oh, see? I can't move it, but since I'm blue, I will then unlock it, move it over here, and it will automatically set itself in. And then I'll press L, and it's now locked in. So for grabbing the other things, anything that's like just a one of, like your character roles, that'll be easy. But let's say you have a stack of 4 or more artists or summons. Simply get them all stacked up. If you double click, it'll show that it's got all 4 of them. Click and hold, and press 1, and that will then bring them all with you when you then press 1 to switch between the screens. Same thing can be done with the cards, which you want to place in here. This is a good example. There's 2 spots set up here. One will be, your cards will show up face up. This will be your discard. One will go face down. This will be where you will draw from. Let's just go ahead and grab the masterpieces, which if you send down here, they'll fold out not quite perfectly, so you might have to do some quick readjusting there. Easy peasy. We'll grab our ability cards, shut them there, and then there is this box that will hold like your deck and some things. Up to you if you want to use it or not. I normally just grab everything like this because there should be in your full bar place to put all of those things. Though those ones will be secretive, so maybe you put them here. Up to you. And with that, we've gotten everything for the dancer. And then from there, it's mainly just click and drag for whatever you'd like. Now let's grab a second board, just so that way it all looks clean, because, yep, play your cards from the deck, click and drag, and they will then flip up for you in here. And as mentioned, my opponent, if they were in the red seat, which if we were to say, yeah, we're going to leave that seat, we're going to go to the red seat, we can no longer see what's in the blue hand. Let's go over some universal shortcuts. So let's say you are in the blue seat and you don't want to play looking at it from the top down. You can press R to rotate the screen in 45-degree angles and then make it so that way your side is now the bottom and you are now facing your opponent. Up to you how you prefer to do that. Now, as you can probably tell, cards are definitely visible by their art, but hard to read, or basically impossible to read at this view. If you hover any card or anything and hold the space bar, it will then bring you up a larger version. So let's say I play my Dancer Intention here. I just hover over, hold space, and this will give me a full view so that way I can properly read it, properly explain which intention I'm going to do. With this intention, as our example, since we have to exhaust, there's two ways that you can go about exhausting your character. You can highlight them, and you can either press Q or E to rotate them to the side, or you can also press F to make them kind of all shadowy. This is purely up to you. Some people like having them faded out to kind of give the impression that they are exhausted. Or if you're used to like the tabletop version, maybe you like turning them sideways since that more represents their physical counterparts. When you need to, at the start of the game, shuffle your deck, you'll want to double click your entire deck so that way all 30 are there. And pressing Z will give it this little shake animation that is showing that it is being shuffled. As shown before, you can either click and drag to bring out your opening hand, or if you want to say draw them all at once, if you click and then hold shift and then click again, you can then grab the exact amount that you want. This can also be really good for characters like the dancer that might have a lot of tokens that you need to grab all at once. So if we highlight these scales and then hold shift, we can then click and grab exactly how many scales we like, and then from there just drop them down as we like. We can also see, thanks to this, whenever we have a piece, there are specific spots they can be placed on. So in the scales, you can place them in any of these corners. For any artists or summons, they'll have dots for the full segment. And we'll go into other characters and how they work after this. Now let's say you have to select a bunch of things all at once. You can also hold shift and then just click everything separately, so that way you can then click and drag them where they need to go. When using a card that will ask you to target and choose a direction, you can grab these to, of course, mark down where they're going to go, and you can press the E or Q to rotate them in the direction that you need to. When you take damage and need to flip your masterpiece card, you'll just need to click them and press the F key, and this will flip them upside down. And with that, I think we've gone over all the universal aspects that you will need for React on Screen Top. Now let's go into some of the more character-specific interactions. For the calligrapher, since they ink standees and not specific spots, just as before, you will see that they have their own specific spots to put inks on different standees, so that way they're very visible on who they are affecting and how many. And just as before, you can click and hold space if you need to add or remove multiple inks at once. For Tagger and anybody else that has tiles, similarly to artists and summons, they will just take up a full spot, and they are set up so that way any artists or summons will always go above them. So even if a tile would get placed on top of them, it will go behind them. The painter is a unique character since they do not have a deck of cards, instead having their dice, and of course their Holy Shield token. It's up to you how you want to track and store your dice, whether you want to use this yellow spot here and then just remove dice that are used, or maybe you store your dice near where you would place their cards. Or maybe you place them over in this bar. Whatever works best for you. When you need to roll a dice, you'll just highlight it and press the F key. If you need to roll multiple, you can always do the Shift and click button, and then press F again, and this will shuffle all of them. And just as before, you can always hold space to then double check what each dice is. I also like to keep Nathaniel and Nathaniel's cards off to the side and then switch them out once they're used, just to avoid cluttering their intention bar. For the sculptor, just like with flipping cards, when you are expending the expendable, you can highlight the ones that you want to flip, and then just press the F key to flip them all over. And then from there, click and drag them off the board and then reorganize them as you go. Sometimes they'll all slide in here properly, sometimes they won't, so just be careful on that. You might have to do some reorganizing. The animator, like the painter, does not have a deck of cards, so you have to get a little tricky with their placement. I would recommend unlocking this box here, moving it out of the way, same with this. So that way you have more room for their cards. I would leave their frame rules offside of their intention row here. For their animation reel, you want to highlight all of their frames and press Z, and this will shuffle them up. So you can go up. When you use your back to the drawing board to remove frames, once again, doing the old hold shift and click will be a great way to remove them. And just remember to not return them to your animation reel until it is empty, at which point you'll do the shuffle trick again to make sure that they are randomized. For the tattooist, just like the sculptor, each bunny can hold their tattoos as so. You can organize them over here if you'd like, or you can always try to match them up with their correct card. Holding space, of course, to show off which tattoo it is. The fortune teller is a little tricky, as their tarot cards don't have a specific spot to go, so wherever you'd like to place them, probably behind where summons would normally go. Just as before, you can always press E or Q to rotate them to show if they are active or not. When playing an intention face down, you'll want to select them in your hand, press F, and then place them in their zone. Of course, then targeting their specific spot, pressing E or Q to choose your direction. Unfortunately, there's no way to view your face down card after it's been played, so please remember what it was. The DJ, like the fortune teller, doesn't have a specific spot to put their beats or their turntables, so as long as they are in a visible spot for both players, that will work. When you play a beat, you will then place it on an open turntable. As a reminder, you can always hold space to then get a view of the beats. And when you are looking to rotate the beats to their next segment, you can press Q to rotate them until their next segment is at the top. Well, it may be hard to see how far your beats have progressed at a distance. If you hold space over the whole turntable, it will show their position that way. Once it's gone through all of its segments and done a full rotation, you'll of course remove it. You'll want to make sure that you probably put them somewhere off to the side, so that way you remember you can't start a beat that has ended on that same turn. Beats come in 3, 4, and 5 segments, as can be seen stylistically on these beats. Finally, the storyteller. Similar to Tagger, their zones will always go behind summons and artists, so that's easy enough. I would recommend keeping Absence Arrow 2 off to the side so you don't select it until you receive it. And then for the chapters, you can do these however you like. You can keep them to the side and then just click F and flip them when they activate. Or maybe you like to stack them, so that way it's kind of like a stack of books, and once you ascend, you'll take one off, flip it, and then do the same as you go. Switching out Absinthe Arrow, playing your second Wonderland tile, and then for the final ascension, flipping it and then unflipping it for when you ascend next. And with that, I think we've covered everything you'll need to know for playing React, The Arts of War on Screentop.gg. If you have any questions or any extra tips that I might have missed, feel free to ask in the comments. Thanks for watching.